Mitchell, I wanted to hear your thoughts around this. How do you get, city building is complex and there's a lot of people with a lot of different viewpoints. How do you get them to work together?
Hmm. That's a really good question. And I think I can build off what Maria and Rachel were saying. So I completely agree. Expressing curiosity is the number one way of opening a door for understanding. And I think Rachel sort of highlighted how creating a sense of comfort is really important in there to allow for learning. If you go in combative, it's going to be really difficult to win the other side over. You might feel like you left that with a winning argument, but no viewpoints have changed. And in that regard, uh, you know, Twitter is a pretty common tool in urbanism for having conversations. And in that whole spectrum, I really question like whether that is the least efficient learning method that exists, in that there's so much good information that goes out into the world through Twitter, and yet there's so much combat that people just are not absorbing it. It's really just about basically what this picture is showing, like blow for blow. And when you make that space, you can actually learn a lot of really good things and actually connect with diverse people who you may have not inherently agreed with. But that space, that comfort, can really be influenced by the setting in which it's taking place. So Twitter set up as an oppositional setting. Well, you can also set up built environments to enhance or decrease the sense of trust and or opposition that people are facing. So a study Happy City did years ago in Seattle was called The Lost Tourists. And in that study, we had participants take a map and just go out in the street and just try to look as lost as possible and see if passersby would take pity on them and stop to talk. And in doing so, expressing or projecting a first step of vulnerability to stop and make that interaction. And this study took place at a blank wall, so a long blank edge with no windows or nothing else, and then on a community commercial street, so like a local main street, and nothing fancy. It wasn't a particularly high-end street by any stretch, and yet it had some cafes and a patio and lots of windows and doors. And the way the environment was designed influenced the way people were willing to interact with each other. At the blank wall, I think people were about 60% less likely to stop. They weren't there to interact. If you were able to stop at both sides, then the second part, the lost tourist was supposed to say, like, look, could I just call my friend? My phone is dead and I'd really love to reach them. I know it's somewhere around here. Nobody at the blank wall gave over their phone, like just expecting that this was like someone going to take off with it. And then the final step was to say, like, look, I'm just so hopeless with directions. Do you mind if could you just take me there? I know it's close by. And again, it was, I think, 4 times more likely that folks at the active edge were going to do this than at the blank wall. And these were two streets only a few blocks apart, and yet they totally mediated the way people interacted with one another. And in one case, the lost tourist was brought to the park and then asked out on a date. So, there are actually ways how the built environment can mediate romance. When we think about how we can get diverse people to cooperate, and work together on projects that are larger than themselves, we'll often look for what that commonality is. So if a city is hiring us to look at issues of walkability in a neighborhood that has below average income and a higher share of first or second generation migrants than other neighborhoods, we'll often look at what the common goals might be. And usually that takes some translating, because the city might say, like, okay, well, we want people to walk. And the folks in the neighborhood are saying, like, it's not like our infrastructure is pretty good. It's not that we have nowhere to walk to. And so you have to find these common points. And it really is a lot of listening to figure out where those goals might overlap and how you might be able to bring people together to identify a common piece to then work towards in an actual partnership, rather than like, a delivery of services. The other way that really comes through at Happy City is when we have this expression of curiosity from people, when there is a sense of willingness to learn from others, we can invite them to activities where we're bringing people together. So we do quite a few workshop activities and try to bring together diverse groups to take part in these ways of learning together. And so we know that there is this initial expression of curiosity and people are willing to be there to begin with. So we do everything possible in the lead up to them coming into the door, sitting down, or now digitally, and then being at the table to create a sense of comfort where we've done as much as possible before the conversation starts to reduce the sense of anxiety and the barriers they may have within themselves. And these tend to be starting points for conversation with people who have different lived experiences and even different perspectives on issues, even bike lanes, that can be contentious. And this really becomes the basis for that way of working together. So curiosity and comfort, and doing everything possible to reduce the sense of anxiety and the barriers that come with everything around that.